Hey there, welcome to a brand new episode of Muzikxpress. My name is Kwan, and in this vlog you will see my interview with Matt Darey about his classic Kwan 0.0. Enjoy! Matt Darey is an English DJ producer who's mainly active in the trance genre. He's responsible for plenty of classics such as Game Master, Liberation, Beautiful, Bailamos, You Shine On and many others. Furthermore, Matt did a lot of remixes for artists such as Agnelia Nelson, Delirium, ATB, Kim Wilde, Binary Finery, Three Drives, The Space Brothers, and the list goes on and on. For this week's vlog I sat down with Matt to talk with him about one of his very first releases, Kwan 0.0, a trance track which came out exactly 25 years ago, back in 1994. My first question to Matt was how old he was when he started to listen to music.
6, 7, listening to pop music. The pop music then, it was the 70s, so it was, there was disco, which I didn't listen to at all. Apart from Donna Summer, I Feel Love, that was like the classic that came out of that. But I used to listen more to like ska sort of music, that was like, what was cool for school kids. Okay. At the time. And the Sex Pistols, I had both their albums and stuff. Yeah, Sex Pistols was like great for kids because it was just the total rebellion against the parents, so yeah.
Do you remember some of the tracks that inspired you to start making your own music?
Well, I mean, the first ever band that I tried to form, with Biscuit Tins and stuff, the drummer on Biscuit Tins and stuff, was like when I was probably about 7. So, and that was, the Sex Pistols was the band of the time. So, but that was just like a child play sort of thing. So, but I really wanted to do it from that point on, and I had a musical background. From my dad used to sing opera, my eldest brother grade 8 pianist, and my other brother he played all the wind instruments, I played the violin. From an early age I was like had music at home, so music theory as well, which helps.
Let's talk about 0.0, a track you did in the year 1994 under the project name Kwan. What do you remember from the production process of the track?
I mean, the process of getting to finding that sound took like a few years, because I was lucky enough to, as soon as I got my degree, literally before I got my graduation ceremony, blah blah blah, which I didn't go to, I'd already got a major deal with Warner Brothers. So it was on the tail end of that. It was a rebellion because the Warner Brothers was like a sort of like a pop rave project, and it was just totally the anti of that because I was just sick of it. It was just so much hassle and management and record labels and blah blah blah, all the stuff. It was like almost like a pop band project that I got signed for. So I came out of that. I actually left that and I started to listen to underground music. So I developed that over 3 years. I had to go incognito because I was still tied to a record label for quite a few years. So hence I called myself Kwan and Paul Austin as a writer. So, but it took a few years to find the sound, because mainly because nobody was interested in it. They were just like this obscure experimental stuff, and I went round to so many labels and they all turned it down, and then someone agreed to put it on a B-side of a more commercial track that I did. So it got out there. But the process, I mean, I had an Atari ST 1040 S1000 sampler, like a JD 990 synth, which was the main synth used in that for all the sort of filtering sounds. At that time, that sort of filtering sound, it was just being discovered, So yeah, I went through quite a process, and I started, experimenting with reversing sounds and stuff, recording whole audio bites and reversing them to get the arpeggios that sounded a bit sort of ghostly and like, you know, they had something weird going on about them. So it was really just putting, eventually when this guy said, look, I'll stick that track, it's quite interesting, I'll stick it on the B-side of this other track. The guy was Joey Negro, Dave Lee, who's Jakarta, did American Dream, and the track was Seal and stuff. Like he had many different guises, so he was the guy who spotted the initial sort of talent. And we got it into shape. We went into his studio and he said, you know, you got to put some drums at the beginning, you know, and you've got to put like something for the DJ to mix out, which was totally alien to me. So yeah, so we got it into shape, and you know, in a couple of days.
Is there a story behind the title of the track?
Well, Lee Kwan was a great dictator of the future from Star Trek, and Point Zero just I don't know, it just seemed like I don't know, like the right title. It was like you know, the beginning, you know, the beginning of something. It was a new sound, you know, it was a new sound at that time. So eventually, I think, you know, eventually we did the studio session in '93, sent out a few white labels. In '94 we got it out on vinyl, and it did the other side, the A side, did really well. It was all over radio, but the B side was also popular with like Pete Tong, and he made it Essential New Tune twice. He made the A side Essential New Tune 1 week, and then a few weeks later he made the other side, Lee Kwan Point Zero, and then Paul Oakenfold discovered it, and then he put it in his Goa mix. And
the track features a vocal sample from A Positive Life, The Calling. Why did you decide to pick this one for Point Zero?
A sample? Ooh. Yeah. I used to watch. I think you might. Are you referring to Woodstock, the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Woodstock, the movie. Because I used to love that movie, because obviously, you know, Woodstock was one of the first great festivals. It was declared a disaster zone, you know, and there were all these hippies there, and just, you know, they were getting out of their minds. It was just so entertaining. It was a great movie, great stoner movie. And this girl in one of the tents was looking after people, the casualties, and she said, "Wow, some of the kids that come in here, they're really spaced out." And it just felt right through some kind of echo and reverb. It just sounded perfect for it, you know.
Do you remember playing the track for the very first time?
Well, I never used to DJ, so no. I mean, I didn't start DJing till way later. Like, you know, I did a Euphoria album, 1999, but even that was the Euphoria albums I did in a completely different way to a DJ. I sat down, put all the tracks to the same tempo, worked out the musical key, used pitch shifters to stretch the key with like half a semitone if necessary, and I arranged it like that. So I really didn't use any sort of DJing skills for that. It was only like later. I played my first, I think it was New Year's Eve 2001, I played my first actual DJ gig. Just before that, Steve Jones from the Space Brothers was like a guy that we used to hang out and party together a bit, and he came round and gave me a crash course in an afternoon on how to DJ with vinyl. Just completely, I'd never tried to DJ before, so we had a crash course, and he said, come on, you know, because I was going to have a nice quiet little 20-minute spin at his party that evening, and this was before my first ever official gig, and he said, look, I'll let you just warm up for 20 minutes, I'll be there with you in the booth to help you to navigate the decks, you know, if you've forgotten. And we were driving there, we're all driving there in his truck, and then we were listening to BBC Radio 1, and it came up as an announcement, Matt Darey's debut gig tonight on Radio 1. So and it was pretty packed, so it was pretty daunting, because it was at the height of, I was just churning out hits all the time at that point. So I was pretty nervous, but that kind of solidified the idea of being a DJ. So I just practiced, and then I did a New Year's gig, and they couldn't get me off the decks. New Year's 2001, Kuala Lumpur, and I just wouldn't get off the decks. And I think I played for 3 or 4 hours, probably very badly. It seemed great because I had a few to drink, but I had to calm the nerves, But yeah, that was, yeah.
Point Zero had like a second life in 1998, 1999, like it was rediscovered or something. Do you have any idea what could be the reason for this?
I just think it was at the time it wasn't in a genre, it wasn't given a genre, because the genre gradually formed, and then I just think because it was a track that a lot of the people a few years later who were then producing had been inspired by. I think it had a second life,
If you have to pick one favorite memory you have from the release of Point Zero, what would that be and why?
Hearing it on the Goa mix, because I finally, I'd had a bit of good feedback from Oki, who, thank God, he came along and brought all this kind of music together. He really mixed it with soundscapes, bits from movies and stuff, and made this Goa mix. And it kind of I felt part of something at that point. I thought, yeah, this is the music that I'm part of, and it felt good not to be an outsider, because I'd spent years knocking on doors trying to get this sound out there on vinyl, and it was only on a B-side, it was kind of just to make me happy, so it was great to feel a part of something. And it felt, even though that mix was quite diverse sound-wise, it still felt like I was part of something, and this is the music that I'm going to make.
It's still iconic?
Yeah, it's still, because it translates so well, and I think it gets a lot of love from people who started out, who were influenced by it, or that was maybe their reason, one of the tracks that got them into the idea of making a bit of trance, so.
Point Zero came out 25 years ago, and since you are releasing music for 25 years now, you're gonna celebrate this with the release of your album Retrospective, which will be out soon. What can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, that's obviously, you reach 25 years, you've got to do something to mark it. So I suppose just out of laziness, really, I haven't signed any of my catalogue to anyone since I got, used to usually sign to this label, that label, and then you get the rights back after 10 years, 7 years or something. That all my tracks have just been sitting there, nothing going on. Every now and then I get someone sending me a bootleg, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, let's release it or send it out, So I've got all the rights, so it's quite easy for me to just go, boom, let's make an album of all the tracks that I ever made on one album. So that's the idea, but there's a twist to it as well. You could not imagine the amount of tracks that I've thrown in the bin that were nearly finished. There were great demos, but at the time, for one reason or another, usually because I thought, who the hell's going to play that? But I put it in the bin or put it to one side and never released it, even though they were finished mixes. So I went through my hard drive, and I've discovered a whole load of those from, dating from the mid-90s to, up to close to the present day. So I've decided to put all those on a separate part of the album, because it's a huge album, as you can imagine. You've got to break it up. And there's also another album that I signed to Koch Records, which is the biggest independent in the USA, or was, when I signed it in 2006, 2007, and it never got released because they went into financial meltdown, and that was something quite different. That was like a band sound as well, so that's going to get released as well. So I've got all these rights to all this music. I thought to make it interesting, so it's not just Matt Darey's classics again, that I've got on this compilation, and that it's like stuff from all the different eras that they've never heard before. So I've done a bit of remastering and stuff. There were a couple of tracks, maybe 4 or 5 tracks that I actually still had the projects for, so I went back and tweaked them, and some of them were just a remastering because I'd lost the original project. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting album for someone who's been a real fan of my music, because whichever era they like, there's something of that era that they have never heard that's pretty good. I regret not releasing them because I just think, how did I not? Because that's better than the stuff that I did release. It's when I was working with Ministry of Sound, for example, there was a push towards you must do a follow-up to Beautiful, like must be vocal and stuff, and I've got loads of instrumentals from around that were really cool, and yeah.
And when can we expect the album?
Well, I've got, the deadline is, the launch party is 27th of July, Saturday. So that's the day when it's available. I'm going to make it exclusively available on mattdarey.com to start with, at least. Just exclusive, so you won't get it on Spotify, etc. for a little while longer, because I will have to sort out all the Spotify edits, and I do everything myself. I don't farm anything out, so that's going to take me a couple of months just to, when I get time, to do the edits, because you have to take all the tracks down to sort of at least 4 minutes or something like that, and you've got to do it. You don't want to butcher them, you want to do it with a bit of class, a bit of elegance. So there's a lot of work. You can imagine the 100 tracks we're talking about, at least.
You're gonna be busy.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a boat party?
Yeah, it's my hometown, of course, London, River Thames. They've got a really great boat. It's the best boat for parties, sound system wise. So I've hired that out for the afternoon of the 27th. Yeah, and we're gonna party hard. And I'm doing another one in the north, but I'm delaying that until my birthday, which is 29th of November. That's up in Liverpool, because a lot of people from in the north don't want to have to travel down to London. I don't want them too close together. And the one in the north is going to be the longest DJ set that I have played in my life. I'm going to play like open to close for 8 hours, something like that, which I know many other DJs have done more than that, but for me, I've only ever played like 4 hours max.
During those 25 years, you produced a lot of tracks such as Beautiful, Liberation, Game Master, and many others. If you had to pick just one, what would be your favorite one?
I think probably the most fondest memories from Game Master, because it's got nice melodies. It's got like I had loads of stuff lying around. Like I was working with an opera singer, she's in it. Of course, the riff really gets people going. It's like I've got more fond memories of that because it's a real party piece.
So, besides the retrospective album, what else are you working on right now?
Well, I've been working for about 3 years now in a new technology, 3D sound. They don't like me to call it that, but it's Dolby Atmos. It's like home cinema. And I made an album in 2017, a beta test, and then the 3 years after, I've been tweaking it and developing how to make music and in 3D. So I'm just about to release the final version of the album Wolf in 3D, which is going to be the go-to album for anyone with home cinema, because I think it's probably the most exciting thing that I've done ever, because it's so futuristic. I mean, it's what my kid or his kids will be listening to in the future. That's how you'll listen to music. So that's why it's so, and the music I've gone really deep and cool in the main with the music, and I think it's the kind of music that I'll look back on and think, that's the best thing I made. It's sort of like a bit timeless because it's not following anyone else's direction. It's just totally I made the music. I think in general, there's a few tracks on there that are sort of more maybe that I could play in a nocturnal set, which is my radio, a live set to get people dancing, but most of it is sort of electronic music influenced and they're all songs, you know, so they're more like a listening experience, which is perfect for home cinema because you sit in your chair and take it all in, you know, you're not moving. So yeah,
that sounds pretty cool.
It's amazing. It's been a bit of a battle to get there because it's jumping ahead of I think what Dolby wanted to do. They've got that plan later down the line, but I just had to do it, and they were kind enough to let me borrow their studios, because you can't make this stuff at home. You know, you really can't make this at home. The studio is a very high entry market. You know, it's these studios cost 5,000 a day. You know, in London, so there's no way I could afford to ever do that. So it was like they've been very, very kind to let me pursue this, you know.
Is there still anything on your bucket list music-wise?
Well, that's a major one, and really I'm really sort of I am thinking about starting my next album, because the retrospective thing, getting that out in July, and the Wolf, the final version. The original beta test album of Wolf was 10 tracks, and this one is 17. And then I am doing a retrospective album in 3D as well, in Dolby Atmos, sorry guys. That is really, really difficult, because you can imagine trying to reconstruct a track from 25 years ago. A new project is easy. You just render the stems, take it down to Dolby, and you mix it. Or, you know, with the Wolf album, I actually changed the tracks to suit the Atmos thing. Like, I'd record 30 layers of vocal and put a different layer in each different speaker, you know. But with Game Master, which I've already done in 3D, it sounds absolutely cracking. I mean, it's like, for anyone who knows the track so well, which is the beauty of it, if they then hear it on home cinema, they're just going to be blown away. If you don't know the track, then maybe you won't know the difference. But when you hear Game Master, I've worked on Game Master and that works really well. Beautiful has been harder, and they were two complete reconstructions that sound exactly like the original, but reconstructed from nothing, with the very kind help of Karanda. Do you know Karanda? He's from Leicester in the UK. He's a sound engineer, sound designer. He makes sound libraries, and he's an artist in his own right as well. He makes superb production. I think it took him about 2 weeks to reconstruct. I gave him as much material as I could, obviously the vocals, any pieces of audio that I had, and he reconstructed everything else. Yeah, and then I mixed it in Dolby. So
looking forward to that.
That is amazing. I mean, and the idea was to do a lot of the retrospective album in Atmos, but it's just, I've picked the key tracks. Game Master, beautiful. You know, I've done other, like See the Sun. I've done See the Sun sounds, wow, it's like, and that's a track again that everyone knows. So in Atmos, it's a bit too far ahead of what the market is, so it's not realistic really. It's just more like I want to do it because I'm just so excited about it, and someone has to take that step because it takes so much time, and it's not like you can ship it out to anyone else to do. You have to do it yourself, and because it's not, you know, you have to keep the original vibe sort of thing. So yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Alright, that was it, this week's vlog, my interview with Matt Darey about his trance classic Point Zero, which came out under the project name Kwan. Matt, thank you very much for your time, much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment in the comment section below, and make sure to subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye.